Russia is using terrorism to sow division in Britain, the Home Secretary is saying, as she lays out the government's new counter-terror strategy.
Yes, Suella Braverman will also say that Islamic terrorism is still a major threat in this country, accounting for 3/4 of the MI5's time.
Here's Major General Chip Chapman. Chip is former head of counter-terrorism at the Ministry of Defence. Chip, good morning. Thanks for your time today. What do you make of this sort of analysis that Russia is sowing the seeds of discontent? It would hardly surprise you.
No, well, one of the things we've always looked at in the last few years is hybrid warfare from Russia. That is to use either deniable attacks or information operations, including propaganda and subversion, to try and subvert democracy. And one of the ways you do that is to amplify groups either of extreme left, extreme right, or Islamists who need a grievance and an ideology if you're going to have a terrorist attack. So it would potentially be something which Russia could exploit, particularly in the information age, for the future. So they will try and exploit that. What we would really see them doing, I think, is the sort of deniable attacks on energy infrastructure. That would be far more impactful than low-order terrorist attacks in the UK.
And today the Home Secretary will announce a long-awaited update to what's called Contest. This is the government's counter-terrorism programme. I don't know if it was there when you were at the MOD in charge of all of this, but this is the 2023 version of it. What can we expect from it, and how crucial will this update be?
Well, Contest was there. Firstly, the functions of Contest will still remain. So we had an update in February this year on the Prevent strategy, which is often deemed to be the most important. That's safeguarding, making sure vulnerable people can't be drawn into terrorism. I think there'll be more amplification of the Protect measure. And again, we've seen things come out of that from the Manchester Arena attack, i.e. venue guarding and making sure security is tight at these sort of things. Also about building into venues sort of security so they're not exploited by terrorists. And lastly, pursue having the legislation there so that you can preempt these things. And that's been very successful recently. It's worth putting this in context. That the threat level in the UK at the moment is substantial, has been since February 22. That is, an attack is likely. Before that, for a number of years, it was severe. That is, an attack is highly likely. And in terms of the baselines, the number of people who are now being charged is a lot less than it was, for example, in the era of 2015. 2018. So we're a lot safer now than we were previously. Of course, no one in the sort of security services is ever complacent about these things.
Yeah, it's fascinating to hear, 3/4 of resources go into monitoring Islamic terrorism. What about things like the Irish problem? Has that gone away?
Well, that's a really interesting one because, of course, the dissident Republicans in Northern Ireland are still active. Although I said to you that the threat level in GB was substantial, it is still severe. That is, an attack is highly likely. So the threat level in Northern Ireland from dissident Republicans is higher than the threat from Islamist terrorism in GB.